need to know how to solve quadratics a few different ways. You've got to know how to solve by factoring, by the square root method, and by, what's the last one? Quadratic equation, quad formula. And I'll tell you, we don't need to know these three just for this test. We're going to use these three things the entire semester, okay? So I'm testing on it now, so you'll know if you really kind of understand it or not. But really, we need to know these for the entire semester. So if I go back to 1.5, maybe I won't choose questions from the homework. I think chapter 1 does like a review at the end of it. Hold on. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay. I'm going to choose questions from this review that your book has, and it's on page 204. Just because you probably haven't seen these questions yet. If you've done the homework, you haven't done these questions, so they're good to add. I would do numbers 58, 59, 60, 62, 68, and 70. Now you have the answers for these guys. I know there's even an odds thrown in there. You have all the answers for these because it's like a review. It's a review for the entire chapter. The answers, I believe, are in the back of the book. I could be wrong. It's either the back of the page or the back of the book. But since it's a review, you have all of them. Okay, that's what we need to know from 1.5. We need to know how to factor it. We need to know how to do the square root method. We need to know how to do the quadratic formula. And then these are just some basic questions that are going to look like the ones on the test. Now, mind you, they're going to be multiple choice. They won't be worked out, or you'll just have to choose which one. 2.1, we had a lot of stuff going on in 2.1. First was determining functions. There was a few different ways to do this. There was that like bubble method. Remember where I drew the bubbles? And I might have used something about pets. Did I use a pet example in here? Can't remember. Okay, yeah. So you've got kind of the bubble method to determine if it's a function. You've got if an equation is a function. If a group of coordinates are a function, and if a graph is a function, okay? And we went all, if you go back to that lecture, you can see it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But we went over the 4 different ways to kind of determine if something was a function. Let me see. I mean, there was other stuff too. Dang, it took too long. Oh yeah, okay, wait, hold on. Then we went over function notation. So let's look at, for the first 4, I'll put them all together actually, because your book kind of does these in a different order than I would have done them. But for these, for this part, look on page 323. It's another one of the reviews. And then it's numbers 1 through 16. And it goes over this part. It goes over it doesn't go over the bubble aspect. That might be, actually, I don't think that's going to be on the test anyway. You don't have to worry about it. The equation, coordinates, and graph are going to be on the test. And then, so you can kind of put a lot in that one. That was just me kind of doing an example that day. But the function notation and then equation, coordinates, and graph, determining if a function is from an equation, coordinate, or graph is in this group of examples, 1 through 16 on page 323, okay? Then we determined like all these things from a graph, right? Finding, I'll put finding domain here, 2.2 or 2.1 still. Still in 2.1, I lied. Oh, they mixed 2.1 and 2.2 together. That makes sense. 2.1, we also found the domain from the graph. And then in 2.2, they mix these together, so that's why I'm doing this. We went over increasing and decreasing functions and constant. Let's see what else it asked you there. Function, the range, x-intercepts, y-intercepts, intervals on which the missing function values. Oh, yeah, and missing function values, that was actually both of them. So missing function values, that's really a 2.1-ish concept, but it's in both. So for this, if you look back at that page 324, it's number 17 through 19, okay? It's just 3 questions, but it asks all those. It asks, remember when I gave you a graph and we did like we found like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, that's what's going on here. For finding the domain from the graph, where the graph is increasing or decreasing or constant, and missing function values. That's 17 through 19 on page 324. And then, I mean, you could honestly add 2.2, the relative min or max. That's just the next 2 questions, 20 and 21. Okay. But so, and I got to get to 2.6 here. I know I've kind of jumped over 2.6. I'm going to do that at the very end because it doesn't flow with the way your book kind of orders this. And then I'm going to go over what we did today. So today we went over even and odd functions. So really symmetry and piecewise functions. So even and odd functions and piecewise functions. Now these are covered in 22. Actually, let's do 22. Still same page, 324. 22 through 24. But then for the piecewise function, I don't like the way they're doing it in this example. It's not going to be the way that it's on the test. So I'm going to go back and find one in the homework, which is how I asked it on the test. So this is from page 24, it might be 325. But then for piecewise functions, I know this is kind of goofy, I'm sorry about that, guys. For piecewise functions, though, it's going to be more like number 37 in the homework on page 240. Okay, it's going to be asked more like that. Okay, so and then lastly, we've got finding the domain of function equations. Let's see if that 324 page 324 works for this one. Yes. Yeah, okay. Yeah, perfect. So if you look at the very, very bottom right of page 325, starts on number 70. I would understand or grasp 70 through 73. So those 4 questions, 70, 71, 72, and 73, those are good questions that will pop up on the test. Okay? So these are all the topics. I mean, if we kind of go through here, I know you can rewind it if you're watching on the video, but we've got 1.1 is solving quadratics. Ooh, I should put it that way. Hold on. That is solving quadratics. 1.5 is over solving quadratics, factoring square root method, and quadratic formula. 2.1, we've got first if a relation really is a function. either by the equation of the relation, the coordinates on the relation, or the graph of the relation, and then function notation. Then 2.1 and 2.2 kind of blend together when it comes to finding the domain of the graph, where is it increasing or decreasing or constant, and what are the missing function values. And then 2.2 then continues with finding relative min or max. And then we go into what we did today, even, odd, symmetry, and the piecewise function. And then 2.6, which really I did on that first 2.2 lecture, but 2.6 is finding the domain of function equations. So that's what's going to be on the test. So that's what the 25 questions